You can ask the question.
I think that's very helpful. These are all people who are speaking in their personal capacity.
It's a personal capacity.
They have views, and we've asked for their best advice and thoughts and predictions about what transition will bring. But now to come to you, representing the government, I want to ask you two questions. One about reconciliation, which you put on the table, both political, juristic reconciliation, but also reconciliation with relationship to accusations of corruption in the past and so forth. How do you see that playing out? That would be my first question. And then the second question is, there's an obvious thing that all of us on the panel have in common, which is that we're all men. And I'm wondering how you see the future of women in Libyan society and the future of women in the process of transition.
On the first question, reconciliation. First, I have to say that I like Professor Tarek injection of reality, because I think what you heard here is heart, true heart, and true mind. And when I listen to these people around me here, and many others, Libyans, if I can attract them to come back to Libya, that's the best resource we have. But the truth of the matter, we are insolvents on a national account basis, and I can actually talk about that. We may have cash. So therefore, that has to be also the reality check there. The issue of reconciliation is utmost important for us, because we really had something akin to a civil war. If you want, we can draw parallels to our experience from East Europe for transition economically and what to do with a single party, the revolutionary committees, or from other places of Africa. But the truth of the matter is, we look like U.S. post-Civil War in many ways. Our society, in some parts of it, is torn asunder. And in some places, it will take many years for it to heal. Therefore, what we really need to do is to start with something that our grandparents started with immediately after World War II. And at the time, it was the experience of Libyan collaborators with the Italians. And I think they were well advised to have a legal framework. So for us to develop a legal framework so that this whole reconciliation, truth first, and reconciliation will take place. But there will be difficult parts of it. And that is the part that we really have to think in terms of what are the incentives, the mix of incentives, economic and social and otherwise, to bring this about. But that's why I mentioned we need the national institutions, the army and the civil service, which I forgot to mention, to actually develop it immediately because they are going to be the ones who are going to look after this necklace that seems to be now subject to disintegrative forces. And it may move apart from one another, the different parts of it. And funny enough, it's not tribal, People think Libya actually is tribal. Yes, of course, people have gone to tribe for protection, and it's fun. But if you come to any tribe and you look at the color of their faces, from black to blonde, you'd imagine this would not have come from some father anyway. And Yuri Dadouche was somebody who knows about Libya as a Libyan. And we have tribes simply because we were subjected to the stress. But what we have now is regionalism. It's funny. You're talking about Benghazi and Misrata. You're talking about cities. The truth of the matter is what we need to do is decentralize as fast as we can, not only decentralization administratively, but fiscally, and do all of these things together, the interdependency of all these issues. It's not like it's going to be easy. Now, how do you then deal with the issue of corruption as a reconciliation? I don't know where you fit it there, David, but the truth of the matter is your corruption in contracts would be very much subject to your normal odious contract concepts that we have to deal with. We have contracts that are 4 times the price per unit as compared to Kazakhstan, and I have gentlemen here who can testify to that from Ernst & Young who've worked with us. And we have all sorts of funny contracts that have been devised. Two-pagers that are given to a contractor who then design and works out the detailed work and then implement and then change through change orders, the equivalent of 7,000 contracts, almost 80 billion under one organization alone. So clearly there is a lot of things that should not be all mixed together. The reconciliation of people, communities together has to be a community-based, and we have to bring the new ideas that are emerging. The bedrock of the democracy in Libya today, clearly, is the municipal power. They started in Benghazi, they started in the liberated areas, and then others, some people I know from Misrata came with a boat for 3 days. At the time, Gaddafi's forces were 50 kilometers away from Benghazi, and they are still in the council. And these people have managed to create something which became, they actually sent these delegates to the TNC, not the other way around. So we have to strengthen this, strengthen it immediately, before we even can think about, and of course the issue of justice and bringing back the courts, and have a form of transitional justice, very much like what our grandfather did with a smaller country, with issues of collaborators, creating the legal framework. We already have now an authority to deal with reconciliation established. We chose the people for it. But again, there's so many issues that have to be dealt with together. Clearly, the issue of managing expectation is very important, because we are really not rich. And I have to put this here. We are not rich. Yes, we have some cash. It may evaporate very fast if you take the budget. If you look at our contingent liability as a nation to the notorious law number 4, where every Libyan basically occupies somebody Libyan's house, which all going to come for compensation. Our social security, which is basically have been bankrupted, and I think Mohammed knows that. The issue relating to compensation versus this 200 billion, and I can give you a number of things, and the number, and our commitment to the EPSA in the oil and gas. If you add all of this together, you have an insolvent nation. There's no question about that. If we jack up the oil to a certain level, and if we have a good multiplier, and if we have a good macroeconomy and all of this, then we are not insolvent. But if we continue our management, if we continue our sort of the expectation not managed of our people, we are going to be hitting that sort of the bedrock of bankruptcy. That's my contention today. So I hope I did not mix up the reconciliation
of you're right.
Community
Many issues.
With these contracts. Yeah.
Do you want to speak, representing the government, to the future of women in...
Oh, the one, what women? Since I know
society.
Quite a number of women in my life, my daughter, my wife, my mother, and all of these people, and they are actually very difficult, all of them. Sometimes you find me out there asking for empowerment of women, and in my mind, to confess, I say, but not my immediate woman, because they're already empowered to a point where they're. But the truth of the matter is, the Libyan women have been shy, not because of any statutory requirement. It is the customs, but they have been shying away from the public place. That's a fact, and we've been saying this. And we are trying to get them to understand that, but we are men. I mean, how are we going to be? So there are a lot of women now in the civil society that are coming out, and young, and they are not going to need much brooding by me or the likes. So my take on the woman in Libya, since there is really no statutory, no laws that have to be removed, it's a fact. And as such, they have also good examples they can choose from around the Arab world, because they watch television, and they are very good in education, by the way. Libyan women have been much higher in their achievements than the boys, the males. And so I am very, if you want, very optimistic on that. But we have to do what we can as government to make sure if there are obstacles, if not, they're not laws, if there are obstacles in the nature of, if you want, attitudes that are embedded in how employers hire. And so I hope I answered this.
Good, thank you very much. Yeah. Tarek, we have just 10 minutes. I want to open it up a little bit. Do you have a statement that you'd like to make now, or shall we wait? Good. So if we could bring the lights up so that I could see some people. Let's take 1, 2, 3, somebody way in the back, 4. And we'll take those 4 comments, and then I'll come back here if you could. So could we have a mic down here in the front?
Thank you. Actually, I'm
maybe you could tell us who you are first. Thanks.
From the bottom. Working? Okay. My name is Mohammed Al-Karaki. I'm partner in Ernst & Young. I was honored actually to live in Libya for 2 years actually, and I felt home. I felt really home. I mean it, you know. I have 2 comments actually. It's not questions, you know, to the panelists because they are really
beware the time.
Excellent. Yeah. One thing is about women. You ask about this actually. My personal experience in Libya, Libyan women were very bright actually. They're very dedicated. They work excellently, and they are really free and empowered women with responsible attitude actually as well. Okay, they appreciate the whole environment. The other thing, which is something I want to bring to the panel actually, which is something, an observation that I have seen in Libya. I think the issue of youth is really snowballing, and I think this is one of the priorities that need to be addressed by the government of Libya or the coming government. This is really a very important issue, a very hot cake.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we had here this gentleman, if we could get the mic to the second row. Thank you very much. And then to this gentleman in the first row.
Thank you very
will be
much.
the next.
Thank you very much. My name is Ahmed Atiga. I'm a Libyan myself. I work for the International Finance Corporation, IFC, in Washington. It's really great to see this distinguished panel of countrymen. Dr. Jehani is a mentor at the World Bank, and Tarek and I go back a long time. So it's really great, particularly in this day, the day of liberation, to be here discussing the challenges and opportunities of Libya. Many issues have been brought up: accountability and transparency, reconciliation, etc. How would you fit this in a very quick process of national dialogue? Without a process of national dialogue that has not started yet in Libya, and this is the management of the political process that Tarek has alluded to, without this dialogue starting on a very, very clear footing and framework, I think these issues will remain an academic exercise that the people who you have to get into this process are not yet associated with. So I'd like to have some reflections on how this process can start. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much, sir.
Yes, thank you. As Dr. Jehani and my friend Tarek Yousef know, I'm also Libyan from a very ancient Jewish community that left in 1967.
You share your name with us if you could.
Uri Dadush.
Thank you.
And just 2 quick points. One is, I remember very well the pre-Gaddafi Libya, an extraordinarily entrepreneurial and dynamic country, and I have very little doubt that you can go back to that situation. The other point is this: what will be the attitude of the new Libya towards its Jewish expatriates and towards the Jewish heritage in Libya, including the shrines?
Thank you. And then we have